My name is David Heimbach, co-chair of the commission. We'll start out with a roll call. So Nancy is excused. Laura,
Present.
Katie,
Here.
John Bart, okay. Noel,
Present.
Bob Schneidmiller,
Present.
and Audrey White.
Present.
Did I miss anybody? Okay.
Joni.
Present.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joni. Thank you. You're on my list here. I don't know why I didn't ask you there.
It's okay.
So first off, we need an approval of the April 14th minutes. If anybody has any discussion or would like to put out a motion for that.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And motion carries approval of the April meeting minutes. Are there any citizen comments? Okay. Anybody online that we don't know about for citizen comments? No. Okay, seeing none, we'll move right on to our action items. First up, we would like to have our continued discussion of Winter Glow and the suggestions from CEC, which is
Mark Saba and Robin Beckedahl are here.
okay. Mark?
Robin online.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Robin.
Just to give you a little history of what happened with Winter Glow. The board got tired. We got old and decided to, hopefully hand it off to the city. They made a presentation to the city council in April. And the city council came to the CEC and asked us to put together a town hall to generate the interest of trying to get some volunteers, okay, a number of volunteers. We put together a subcommittee. Subcommittee consists of 3 members from the CEC, 2 members from the city staff, and hopefully 2 members from the Parks and Art. Hopefully that we can get a couple of you folks to come join us. We have a subcommittee meeting scheduled for tomorrow here at City Hall. And what we want to discuss is the town hall that we have planned for April. I got it written here, April 2nd. It's at, go ahead, Mark.
June.
June 2nd. Thank you, Mark. I'm ahead of myself, I guess. June 2nd at the Rotary Room from 6 to 8. Tomorrow's meeting, we're going to discuss how we're going to approach that. We're going to basically set up the parameters of the town hall. The main thing is to find out the interests of the community on how bad they really want Winter Glow. And we're going to be begging for, honestly begging for volunteers. Because without volunteers, it's going to be a tough thing to do. Because a lot of people think that and Winter Glow appears, and it doesn't. There's a lot of work behind it. But what the plan is, and just talking with city staff and some city council folks, is that it's going to be a downscale first year. But we're going to try to make it as spectacular as we can with what help that we have. And, from there, I really don't know any much more, because once we have the town hall and we get the information, we're going to take that back to city council, and hopefully city council makes its decision by sometime in June, and then we can move forward from there. So any questions?
Is this putting together a plan for the city to procure the displays, or just an
To
overall?
assist, yes. There's still talking stages, but yeah, I think Jen could speak more of it as what we're going to see, what we're expecting from the city. I don't know. I don't mean to put you on the spot, you or Mark. Everything's still in the talking stage, Laura, so we really haven't finalized anything. So we're just hoping that we can keep it going and, we'll cross the bridges as we go. But first thing we need is to find out if the community is interested and the city council's blessings. Any other questions?
And Mark, you can add me to that member from Park Starts Commission.
For tomorrow? Yep.
Tomorrow I can't make, but
That's fine.
but
That's
the
fine.
second is on my calendar.
Okay.
That's going to be the town hall,
Yep.
6 to 8. I'll be there.
Dave, I'll let you know what we decide
Sounds
from
good.
tomorrow. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'll try to be there too.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks, Katie.
And what time do you say the meeting is tomorrow?
Tomorrow,
Sorry, this is Joni. I'm up in the sky.
that's okay. It's tomorrow here at City Hall at 4 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's in what they call the fishbowl.
Okay.
Okay.
And what I can do if nobody from this commission can be there is I can take notes and then email out a summary of the meeting. So
Thank
can
you.
see.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you,
it?
Mark.
That
Any
it?
more questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Roundabout art discussion. And I think we have a Ben Turner to start us off on that.
Doesn't squeak as much as when I first got here. So Jen asked me to just kind of go over what we're going getting ready to do this year when it comes to road projects, landscaping, as well as roundabout art. Just to let everybody know, we do have an arborist on staff now. His name is Dan Mouse, as well as a city gardener who just started within the last 2 weeks. Todd DeLay, he's a former city employee that came back to us. So we are really in the midst of them doing some hard planning on looking at roundabout landscaping, median landscaping, and things like that. So right now this year we're really concentrating on the Moulter medians, which I think you've seen some trees come down. Those were trees that were just died or diseased or were on their last legs. So we're looking to replace the landscaping in those medians, as well as doing some future planning for roundabouts to include the Kramer Mission roundabout, which I think is where there's a possible art display planned for that. And so right now what we're doing with that one is we're having our on-call engineer just to make sure if we're putting up, a large, visibility isn't really an issue with a roundabout, but just in case traffic safety standards, just like you see stop signs are put on those new breakaway foundations now. So if a vehicle would hit it, it would just stop instead of just staying there and causing obstruction. So we're just looking into that because I think it is some sort of signage that we're planning for that roundabout, as well as we're going to add, and I think I talked to Jen about this a little bit before we started. Is there a way to plan? We've got some ideas of what we want to do landscape wise in that particular roundabout. Can we kind of join forces and kind of figure out what that would look like? We're kind of leaning towards a zero-scape solution there, but maybe that's not, maybe that won't quite jive with what the Parks and Arts Commission is thinking.
There's no, just to
Yeah.
echo what you said, there's no irrigation there.
Right. So that's kind of why we were leaning more towards a zero-scape solution. Whereas if we did put in plantings, we would have to run water at a little bit larger cost. And right now we haven't budgeted for that. Some of the other projects that we're in various stages of, we're getting ready to actually start the Mission Avenue overlay project, just kind of behind us, runs in front of the library and the police station. That design is near complete. We expect to put that out for bid here shortly, as soon as WashDOT says we can, because there is some money coming from the state. We also are looking at some other planning efforts on the other side of the freeway on Mission, whether it's an overlay project or a frontage improvement project over by the school out to the city limits to the west. And so there's some opportunities there. And that's really what we're working on this year. Obviously, I think Country Vista Boulevard is on everybody's mind, specifically the commercial section between Liberty Lake and really the city limits. I think there's some real opportunity there for public art. We've already talked about, I think, the Kramer and Country Vista corner. We don't have any of that to do any landscaping in that little corner there in our budget right now. But I think as we start completing some of the planning efforts, we're doing a network analysis for traffic that was already, conducted. Some of it was conducted last week. As we were informed, there were some cameras out taking some counts of traffic. I think there's a real opportunity on Country Vista for things like that, whether it's a future roundabout or things that we've kind of kicked around. So that's kind of what we're working on right now. Now, Country Vista is still a few years away.
So that was gonna be my question. Do you have a timeline on that?
So right now, the capital facilities plan, I believe, has it scheduled sometime in 2027.
And does that include then at that time, the Kramer roundabout and the Kramer corner?
So
To
it
do
probably
it
would
all at once?
include the Kramer corner. I wouldn't say the roundabout. I think the roundabout would be earlier.
Okay,
Yeah, right now, we've kind of budgeted for the Moulter median, but Mark and I have talked about kind of a plan to take a look at each section, kind of a
Okay.
5-year plan. So I think that the Kramer roundabout would be much sooner than that, possibly as early as next year.
So
But
if we-
happy to coordinate with the
If-
art install.
if we put the art in this year, then it won't be landscaped this year.
You're talking
The roundabout.
corner. Well, the
And the
roundabout, I
corner,
think
both.
we've already
Both.
decided we can't
Yeah.
do this year.
I think the corner might be closer. Is that correct?
Yes, the artwork will be installed this year and, or that's the plan at least. And I know the artist is open to and would like to kind of coordinate the landscaping plan with the artwork, so.
Okay, yeah, that's something that we can definitely, if we can get Dan and Todd kind of connected with them, I think we could probably work something out. I mean, they're still kind of in the preliminary plan, so we could adjust a little bit.
And then
Budget-wise.
can they wrap the utility boxes for Legacy and Country Vista and Kramer and Country Vista? Are those okay for wraps now? Have they been turned over to the city from Washtop?
I don't know. I'll have to check with Lisa on that.
Okay, because
Yeah.
we've been waiting
Yeah, it
for
was done
that to.
before I got here, so I could check.
Okay.
I'm not sure how long that process takes. after we
Yeah,
finish the
I
project.
think it was supposed to be this year.
I thought
but
it was this year.
I hadn't heard if it had.
Okay, I can check with Lisa on that one.
Thank you.
Great. Any questions for Ben?
Just confirming, you said right now the landscaping on that corner is 27,
That is for the complete Country Vista
the complete, okay.
project, so, but.
So there's an opportunity to potentially peel that little piece of it out. Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay, moving along, programming suggestions, bike rodeo. Kelly,
At our last planning meeting for this meeting, Nancy asked me to kind of come up with an idea to present for your guys' budget. You have a budget for programming. And so we talked a little bit, and I suggested, since we do have quite a bit of bike enthusiasts in the area, now we have a subcommittee for bikes, that potentially program for your guys' budget could potentially be a bike rodeo, probably in the fall time after kids are in school, as they're starting to, some of them are biking to school. So I just kind of wanted to throw that idea out to see if that's something the commission would like me to kind of do some more research on, potentially work with the subcommittee on some options, if that's something that we feel is an interest to the group.
Yeah, I've actually put on a couple of those before,
Perfect.
and because I worked with Spoke Fest when they had a big event down in Riverfront Park. And basically, it's not that hard to do. I thought possibly you're gonna do it at Barefoot in the park.
I think we were thinking of its own date, so we'd have more room and space with it at Barefoot. If we wanted to do something, say in the parking lot, it would be harder. We'd potentially have to find some grass space and.
What if you did it in, like, on the tennis courts or the basketball court? There'd be room there.
So basketball courts will be, or the tennis court will be occupied with activities already.
But-
Skate park or the basketball.
Yeah, the other two courts, the big basketball court and then the small one, could potentially be an option.
Yeah, they both would work, for that activity.
Mhm.
could
Yeah.
you explain what a bike rodeo is for some of us that may not?
Yeah, so Katie might have a better idea than myself, but the ones I've seen is to teach, do you have different stations to teach kids different aspects for proper helmet wear, changing a tire, hand signals?
Yeah, basically, there's usually 6 to 8 stations, and basically it teaches, you can teach bike safety skills or just kind of have them participate, and you'd have to have probably 8 to 10 volunteers, one for each station, and they would make sure that the participants would do it, safely. And it can be really fun. So I wouldn't call it a rodeo because that's kind of old school term. I would maybe call it a bike skills event or bike skills challenge or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was thinking if we did do it at Barefoot, the SCOPE program could bring in bike helmets maybe before the event in case kids needed helmets. And it'd probably be for 8 to 18-year-old. I mean, 8-year-olds through high school would probably be participating if they want to. So it'd be kids that already know how to ride a bike. That would be riding on the streets and would want to know what skills to do to be safe. So,
Great. Sounds like a great idea.
totally doable. So we could get some people from the community to probably volunteer at the stations. So
So do we have the room for that on the tennis courts during Barefoot?
I don't know. I think the first step would be to maybe meet with the subcommittee if they're interested and then decide kind of what stations you want to do. And then from there, see if there's enough space.
yeah, I mean,
And
if you
volunteers.
just take, if you
Yes.
just take down the nets and make that just into a space, the
Yeah.
tennis court, you could probably do it there.
Yeah,
Well-
so the tennis court wouldn't be available. It'd be one of the 2 basketball courts. We
We've
would
got
have to take
pickleball
nets.
going on with the hub
Okay.
Mhm.
at that, but we could move over to the
The-
big
The
multi-court.
big,
hoop
big basketball court would be great.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
one hard part would just be to think it being Barefoot, volunteers may be harder to find that day with all the activities and may not, but that's just something to think about.
I can work on that.
So if that's something, I was just trying to gauge interest, and that's something you guys would like me to proceed with, and I can maybe discuss more with Katie and then go from there.
Yeah, I can share with you all my lesson plans and everything I have on my computer.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Well, since we're only a few months from there in August, will be on us very quickly. Do we need to decide if that's something we want to do today? Do we need to put it out for discussion like more?
no, you could vote to authorize McClellan staff to move forward on programming this. We have no idea what costs might be associated, but like he said, there's room in the budget for programming for this year that we hadn't anticipated or dog-eared for anything else.
There would be very minimal cost.
Yeah, that's what I would
Minimal.
think it
Nothing.
wouldn't be very,
Probably.
but that way he's okay to go ahead and move forward, doesn't have to wait to present at the next meeting
Yeah.
for approval.
Yeah.
And
So let me just open that up for discussion from any of the commissioners and also those that are online. Is this something that we would like to see? I think personally it would be a great idea to do it. If we could pull it off at Barefoot, where we have a huge captive audience anyway, I think it would be just a great addition.
Yeah, we would just have to advertise that the people participating would have to bring their bikes to the event. So that's the main thing.
Would there be a
Right.
cost involved? Sign up cost or anything like that?
Not necessary.
Yeah.
No?
I think if we're looking to kind of utilize some of our programming dollars, it'd be nice to maybe create like a passport type thing where as children progress through each stage, they get a stamp, and maybe we use some of that funding to have some kind of a prize or something where at the end they get it. I mean, I like the idea of it with Barefoot where there's a crowd. However, if volunteers can't support that, I think it's a good standalone event, programming event as well.
Okay.
yeah,
Well, Laura, I think your idea of, recognizing, various ones, I think that's a great idea because I think it enthusiastically gets the kids pumped up.
Yeah, they could maybe earn a
Agreed.
reflector or something like
Mine
that.
is listening to this conversation and is very excited to go.
So I would move as a commission that we authorize Mikhail to continue developing this event.
Second,
Hey, all in favor? There's a motion on the floor to authorize Mikhail to look into this more for whether it's standalone or at Barefoot. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. So Mikhail and Katie, if you want to collaborate a little further,
We will.
thank you. Any other action items that we've overlooked? Okay, seeing none, move on to unfinished new business. Park plans update. So do we have somebody that is going to,
Yes, we have Jen Dial on Zoom with us. She has a quick presentation for you.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks. I think that's my cue. Can you all hear me okay?
yes,
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, that was really fun listening about bike rodeos and park and public art inventory. Love all that. I'm glad I got to hear all that. So it's been almost a month since I saw all of you, and I just wanted to come back and give a kind of an update of where we're at with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Make sure you guys are kind of following along through the process and get your feedback, and be here to answer any questions. We can go to the next slide. So just kind of reminder update, we developed a public participation plan, which is really the guide for how we're going to engage and inform the community as we move forward through the planning process. We had some iterations of that go back and forth with city staff. We landed at a place where they felt really good with the content. We presented kind of the draft concepts of that to you all back on the 14th of April. And we did the same a couple of days later on April 16th with the Community Engagement Commission. They were really excited about it and looking forward to collaborate and be a part of the process as well. Lisa Keys asked me to give an update to City Council as well on June 11th, just about the overall planning process. So I'll be doing that as well. And again in September. Just to keep everyone on the same page and hear about the progress and excitement of the project. Next slide. So one of the things we did as a kind of on the onset of this engagement effort was to talk with city staff, the people who are closest to the park system, who know the issues, who see the opportunities, who have the ideas. So we conducted 10 interviews to date. You can see on the bulleted list there, that's kind of the variety of folks that we heard from. On the right, that's a picture of just some of the kind of categories and questions that we were asking staff. We're currently putting together a summary report with some key findings, just looking at general themes that kind of rise to the surface. You know, did we hear the same opportunity from 6 out of the 10 interviews? Did we hear some of the same challenges? And that helps us focus our efforts and really kind of refine the process. So stay tuned for that summary report. That should be probably completed by the end of this week, early next week. Next slide. Probably the most exciting thing I have to share with all of you is really the launching of the engagement effort with the outside community, with the public, with the residents of Liberty Lake. We've identified Thursday, May 22nd as that first engagement effort. That'll be at the Trailhead Golf Course Event Center. It's a drop-in between 4 and 6 p.m. so that folks can come by when they get off work. They can have dinner and then come by. We're trying to make it very family friendly, all ages, welcome kind of event. We'll have activities for the kids. We're looking at maybe partnering with even like a local ice cream vendor just to build excitement and interest in coming by and sharing thoughts and feedback about kind of the vision in the park system. We're looking at this point in the engagement effort at those big picture concepts and really just trying to get people excited about the process and being engaged. So we'd love, all of you to be there if you can make it. We'd love your help spreading the word. The image you see on the slide here is the final flyer with a QR code to a survey that we've developed. So we can work with Jen to get printed copies of these to all of you if you'd like to pass them out, or electronically send them out to people you think would be interested in coming. So that's kind of the next, just here in a couple weeks, the next big event related to engagement. Next slide. And so in conjunction with that, we're going to launch a survey. So not only will folks be able to give kind of direct feedback at the event itself, because we're going to have engagement activities. We'll have, we have like a coloring station. We have a bunch of fun stuff planned. But for those folks who can't make it, we also will have an online survey. And so we've been going back and forth with city staff on refining some of the questions. This is just a sample of what one of the questions looks like, but we're asking, about all sorts of things, that the condition of the parks, barriers and accessibility to the parks. We ask about programming, the facilities and their condition, kind of, where people live and how close they are to a park and how far are they willing to go to a park, all kinds of things. So I think we're going to get a lot of really informative data out of this. We'll leave the survey open for probably, 6 weeks, and really try to make sure that we're marketing it well and spreading the word on social media, on your reader board. We'll have paper copies available at City Hall. But once this survey is launched and goes live, we'll make sure all of you have a copy of the link, the online link, so you can send it out as well. You all can participate. So just wanted to give you a heads up that is in the works. Next slide. And then one of the other things we've been talking about is just one wonderful thing about Liberty Lake is how many events you all do at your parks. We've got, the food trucks at Rocky Hill. We've got concerts at Pavilion Park. We have the farmers market. We have the bike rodeo. We have pancake feeds. There's so many opportunities. And the Engagement Commission has really stepped up and said they're willing to help attend. They're helping to spread the word. And so we just wanted to make sure that you're all, also welcome to participate in any of that. And we're developing, if you go to the next slide, I think it shows, we're trying to organize all of the events and who can attend and what time they're at. We developed a matrix that essentially is starting to list kind of in sequential order throughout the summer and into the early fall, when the events occur, where they're at, who can attend either from SCJ or from the Engagement Commission, from city staff, etc. So we'll make sure that you all, have an opportunity to feed this matrix with other ideas, and so that we're being really thorough in our approach. Next slide. The other thing that happened in the last couple of weeks is our landscape architect lead on the project came out to the city and with city staff toured all of the parks and looked at all the facilities and all of the condition and the landscaping and everything. And he did comment that Liberty Lake has one of the most well-maintained park systems he's ever seen. But he took a lot of notes just on inventory, kind of the life cycle status of some of the equipment, and is starting to compile all of that data. And that'll be reflected in the parks plan. And you'll see an outcome and kind of summary of that as we move forward. Next slide. The other thing that we've been working on kind of behind the scenes is just an updated kind of introduction to the Parks and Recreation Plan. So we're going to have, fresh population data, kind of that context for geographically where Liberty Lake sits, what are some of the unique issues facing Liberty Lake. And so it's really like a kind of a demographic deep dive to tell the story about the park system before we get into the actual inventory and recommendations and goals and policies. So we should have a draft of that ready for you soon as well to take a look at. And next slide. That was it. So that's kind of what we've been up to in the last month or so. And I just wanted to make sure you guys are kind of following along the process with us. And if you have suggestions or questions or comments, I'm happy to stick around and field those.
Any questions?
May I ask a question?
Please.
Jen, this may just be a discussion that needs to happen with Lisa and the rest of the team, but you mentioned, was it a June 11th briefing? I just wanted to clarify, there isn't a city council meeting on that date, so we may want to just touch base and make sure that we've got the right date on the calendar so we don't cause a conflict.
I wonder if I'm thinking of planning commission. I thought that as I was saying that, that might be a planning commission meeting. Does that sound right?
I'm not sure.
Probably.
So that may be what it is, but I just want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for a conflict. We can resolve that offline. I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking at my calendar. I have, oh, it is a planning commission. That's my fault for putting council. Yep. I imagine at some point we'll filter this information up from the planning commission to city council too. So I don't think we've identified that date yet, but I'm happy to make a presentation to the council whenever you feel like it would be helpful.
I think there's something scheduled down, or at least tentatively downstream. We can figure all that out later.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
Yep. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Night. All right, moving on. Want to continue our discussion on the ticket booth. In your packet, about a third of the way through is, even though pavilion is spelled wrong, but there is Pavilion Park. Booth renovation on that. So, and you want to talk to us a little bit about what we discussed back on, was it the 18th?
I don't know, so long ago, I
last
can't
week.
remember. I do want to let everybody know that we do own the boxes on the corner of Kramer and Mission. I just went and checked.
Oh,
So
awesome.
we can get on with wrapping those, whatever, if we want to do it as part of the other kind of installation. So what we've talked about since last I was here, so I think the presentations, there was a slide I sent to you all a while back, just some of the options that we could explore. I'm just looking at yours, so I can't see any farther than that. But so the one on your left, that's the ticket booth as it stands. It was built in, I think, around year 2000 when the booth was built. The one in the middle, that's the original ticket booth that was found on the back out of the lake that we were trying to match. And then I tried to amalgamize those together into something that kind of blended a little bit more towards the historic version of the ticket booth. So we got that all put together. Then we met on site with the architect. I believe his name is Gary. That sound right, Laura?
Yeah.
Met with him. He gave us a little bit of a historic lesson on how that ticket booth doesn't look like the original ticket booth. And in fact, we had originally built the original ticket booth, the route pretty much the same size as the original. And when we went through the electrical inspection back then, the inspector from L&I basically said we have to make it larger because we didn't have clearances because it is an electrical closet. And so the size that you see on the far left was a change that was made during construction back in the early 2000s when it was built, so that it would meet all the current or the standard of the time, which requires a 36-inch clearance between the door and the electrical panel within the ticket booth. And so if you actually look inside the ticket booth, you can see the first stab at construction. They kind of just cut around it and then just built around it. And so so Gary kind of filled us in on that. So that was really helpful. And then we kind of had, the discussion restarted on, okay, do we want to do what do we want to do? Do we want to proceed with kind of what I showed you here on the far right? Do we want to try again with a ticket booth that looks more like the original proportions from the one in the middle? And so that's kind of where we left it. Gary was, I think, a proponent of, well, if we're going to do this, well, let's try and do it right and try but that would require some additional discussion with L&I because they were the ones that made us change it back when the one on the left was built. Until we can figure that out, we probably shouldn't move forward with a different course of action. So now we're kind of in a time crunch. We've got a ticket booth that we started taking apart. We took the most of the trim pieces off of that ticket booth. They're kind of the darker color there. We've got obviously a lot of events that happen at Pavilion Park during the summer. And so where we kind of left it was, okay, let's repair, because there is some damage to the plywood. It's rotted. It probably wasn't constructed as well as it could have been for the weather elements at the bottom, where the water's just kind of seeped up over the last 25 years and started to damage that plywood. So where we left it there was, okay, let's fix the damaged pieces. Let's get it back to what it looks like on the left. And then I think we need to, this project has evolved quite a bit since we first talked about it a few months ago. So I think we were going to bring it back. And then Laura, I don't know if you want to elaborate any more on moving forward, what we want to do. We've got a temporary, solution. We're going to fix all the damaged parts. That probably gets us through the summer. But if we want to go and try to match the historic ticket booth proportions, that's kind of a different project than we originally thought. So that may require some additional budget that we originally thought. I think the original budget was $5,000. We're going to use some of that to repair the ticket booth. But if we're going to go all the way back, then it's like we talked on site. It's quite a bit different project than we originally intended. So
I think you summarized that quite
Okay.
well. So my understanding just is that you're repairing, we're repainting, just
Yep.
kind of giving it a little bit of a facelift.
the
to
facelift
just-
only at this point. Any damaged sections, I told him not to replace the door
Yes.
because we had purchased a door. We can return it. It is a 36-inch door. It's pretty large. It wouldn't work if we went with the smaller ticket booth. It's bigger than the ticket booth. So I think what we've got to figure out is what can we do by code. I think they may have overcorrected a little bit and took exactly what the inspector told them they had to do back 25 years ago.
Yes, and my understanding was, so the original drawings, original design had right now the roof basically looks like a hat on the building. The overhang was more historically accurate to begin with. Gary felt that there's 8 to 12 inches that can be gained. He went to L&I. Unfortunately, they won't review and won't consult. They will come inspect and then let us know if we're compliant or not. But his interpretation of the code, he felt that we can get closer to the original proportions. The Schneid-Miller family has indicated a potential interest in sponsoring said work to try to get it back to a more historically accurate representation of the ticket booth. So, I mean, I guess my recommendation at this point is that as a commission, we look at the project and kind of decide what do we want that path forward to look like? Are we endorsing the redesign and relook at it? And then working with the Schneid-Miller family to see about a potential donation. Otherwise, we'd have to push it out a year and rebudget it, or we'd have to go to council to reallocate some funding from other projects that aren't going to be utilized if we're going to try to push it through on a more expedited schedule.
And I do agree with Gary's assessment of the code. I mean, it's pretty clear. You have 36 inches on one side, and you basically have to be the width of the panel, which is approximately 30 inches. So that, I don't know how they got from that to.
I think they were
Roughly
just, I think
fixed.
they were just trying to match
It
the
went
roof
way bigger than I think.
dimension. And even when you went in there, right, the wall panel that the electrical box is mounted on, you've got another like 8 inches just behind it that they built around. So I think there's definitely, whether we can get to the actual original dimensions or not, there's for sure some
You
improvements
get a lot
that,
closer. than
that can
we
be
did.
made. Yeah.
Is there a delay or to get Labor and Industries to sign off on that, to get them out there?
Well, we wouldn't have had to do that.
No, the
Our
original
the
idea,
Original idea, we wouldn't have required them to.
Yes.
That's what's going to delay this, I think, even more, because we're going to have to go through the permit process, because we're building a new structure now.
yes, the original project was not knowing the history behind it, that was not what was desired to be there. The original project was, let's just rebuild it, repaint it, make it look nice, then we can put a mural on it next year as part of the extension. And then as that review started happening, Gary and Ross told us you know, that it was not built as intended and they felt that we could get back there and now it's a much different, much more expensive project.
Think that Brittany Ross, you know, he found a lot of years. He has the history behind all of this, so, I think going forward on the plan here is the way to go.
We have a design. I mean, it's.
We have the
Gary's
original design,
The original
yeah.
design, so it may need to be altered slightly just so.
I don't think there's going to be a lot. It's really going to come down to the LNI interpretation. And I don't know how to, I'm not familiar enough with that process in terms of can they review and approve the drawings pre-construction or if they don't get involved until it's already in place? Because that's,
We do have I spoke to our lead inspector, Chris McCrary. It's like, hey, do you know who the LNI, and they've obviously it's changed a couple times.
Yeah.
Since 2020 as well. I recommend we at least explore some sort of unofficial consultation if we can through the inspector network.
okay.
So at least we can, I mean, I think we can at least get a quick take on it. Is this worth exploring? I think we can get that done fairly quickly within the next weeks or months.
Okay.
Hopefully weeks.
Would the possible donation be dependent upon what the cost would be? Or do they just have, do they
I
have
think
a
there's a
set?
strong desire. I think obviously we would need to put together what that budget might look like, but there's a very strong desire by the family to return it as close to possible to its
Okay.
historic proportions if possible, you know, if we can.
I know we
So-
were throwing out numbers and, you know, we've got 5,000 in the budget. We said, well, it may be more than that, maybe not. We just don't know. And so we typically just add it in $5,000 increments, which I think Ross was a little taken aback, but we try to explain them, but we just, until we get into it a little further, we don't know the actual cost, but that's something we could take a look at as well. Because materials are expensive. I mean, we ended up spending, the plywood just to repair it, I think was $100, $130 a sheet,
Mhm.
because it's gotta be exterior grade plywood. So.
So what's the feeling of the commission? Do we want to pursue redoing the entire project this year? Or just perhaps doing the makeover and pushing it out to 2026?
Well, if we just do the makeover, are we spending funds that we could have for redoing the whole thing?
I think we need to do the makeover regardless. And I
And
don't
the
think we're
makeover,
gonna
we
be,
talk about makeover, we're probably talking $500 to $700.
yeah, it's not, right, it's not significant. And I think it needs to be done regardless of the timeline of the building, because that's going to take,
I think you'll be
Time.
through the summer before.
Yeah, and we need to do it because of the rot that's inside of it, and it's also deteriorated to the point that it houses a lot of bees, and we battle that building every summer with the kids up in the pavilion for the summer camps and the bees, and it's tough to get rid of them because they're up in the walls and they've crept in through all the
Yeah, we're gonna
crevices that are
reseal
open.
everything as part of this little makeover. too.
I guess, my recommendation would obviously be to go with the plan as is in terms of the facelift and then getting more information on what this is going to take and trying to expedite it as much as possible.
Okay.
If we can get it done this year, great. If not, then
Okay.
we rebudget it for next year.
So there's a recommendation to obviously continue with the beautification and repair of it now, but looking at developing, considering what the budget would be and try to push that through for this year. Anybody have any other thoughts or recommendations? Jen, do we need a motion on that too?
I would.
Jen, can you summarize that in a motion for us?
I'll move to continue or to complete the Pavilion Park ticket booth, beautification, repainting, replace the bad pieces and move forward with developing a plan to rebuild.
Great.
That's a very long.
Nicely
motion.
said.
No.
I'm not going to repeat that, so.
It's on the record.
So do we, there's a motion on the floor. Any discussion before we vote on that? Okay. All in favor of Jen's recommendation and motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, we get back to it. Okay, next up, bike safety advisory update from Katie.
Okay, we just met the last Monday of the month in the River District New Love Coffee Shop, and Ben Turner came, and we're continuing to encourage him to develop the master plan and networking through the streets for pedestrian and bike safety. And we're also encouraging bike safety education through different events that we may have. And an exciting thing that just happened is we found out Selkirk Middle School is going to have a bike to school day on June 5th. It's a Thursday, a late start Thursday. So I've contacted the Liberty Lake police officers and the Scope group to be out ensuring safety as the middle school students bike to school. There was a little concern about the students coming from the south end to Selkirk. And so they're developing a plan if they'll come down Country Vista or Moulter and cross the couple different places to cross at Kramer or the pedestrian bike bridge. So we're going to cover that with safety. And the week before, we give out helmets to any students that need them from the Scope program. So it's really exciting that they're moving forward with encouraging the students to bike to school. It's also got brought forward about having a community bike ride sometime in this next year. And I will meet with Mikkel about when the best dates are. If we want to do it in the fall or maybe next spring, next May. But would be kind of a community bike ride where we'd go around to all the parks in Liberty Lake. And so the community could be more aware of all the parks and the fun way to bike around Liberty Lake. So I think that could be really exciting too. So I guess what we're really encouraging too is that drivers become bike friendly and they need to slow down and share the road with the bicyclists this time of year. Make sure you leave 5 feet to pass a bicyclist and make sure you check your mirrors when you're getting out of your car that's parked to make sure that there's not a bicyclist going by, because you can hit a bicyclist from opening your car door. The other thing is too, for bicyclists, make sure that you're visible, wearing bright clothes along with your bike helmet, be predictable and follow the rules of the road and follow the flow of traffic on the right-hand side. And the most important thing for young bike riders is to look both ways before entering the street coming out of a driveway, because that has been found to be most common area where students will get hit by cars. So we're encouraging all the safe rules of the road. So we will be meeting again. The last Monday of the month is Memorial Day, so we'll have to meet on Tuesday in May at 8:30 at New Love Coffee Shop.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions for Katie? Okay, thank you, Katie. I'm gonna move us back for discussion on the call for qualifications. And Laura, do you want to lead us off?
Yep, should be pretty quick. So after Karen Mobley came to our last meeting, she had some suggestions of how we could improve our call for qualifications. So what you have in front of you is I've taken our 2 projects and broken them out into 2 separate call for qualifications. They were combined into one. So the verbiage is more or less what was in the original, just broken out separate. I did add a responsibility section, which will be a standard going forward. That was one thing that Karen pointed out, is that it's not clear what the artist is responsible for versus what the commission or the city will help with. So I broke that out. And then she also suggested that we put the amount of a stipend in there. So she had suggested $1,500. That's what I put in there as a placeholder. So just need the commission's thoughts on the $1,500 stipend. And what this is once we receive the portfolio submissions or qualifications, that we would select, 2 to 3 that we're excited about and offer them a $1,500 stipend to fully develop a proposal for that project. So again, the qualification is really just showing us what they've done in the past so we can get a sense for what their style is, if it's a good fit for our project. The other item that I wanted to point out, she had sent me an email stating that our Liberty Lake Together theme is a little confusing, that she wasn't sure, it wasn't clear if we're looking for just a replica of the logo. So I just put some verbiage that it is meant to be inspiration. And I did put, and I don't know if this is appropriate or not, so this is maybe another conversation point. I put pictures of the 2 that we have to date, just to show that they're very different, and they were also pulled from inspiration of that logo. So maybe we'll get more artists that are interested or understand that we're not just looking for an exact rebuild of the logo. So just wanted your guys' thoughts on if that's appropriate. The stipend. And the other thing I did do, I highlighted the budget. I did move up based on Karen's feedback. I moved up the roundabout to 35,000. It's still within our budgeted line item. All that being said is once we understand what the traffic control impact and all these other factors are, we can make that adjustment for next year since these projects will not be completed in this calendar year. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Questions, concerns?
Any questions?
Okay, everyone okay with the $1,500 stipend?
Yes.
Okay, so my understanding is we don't need to vote to reapprove this, but if everyone's okay with it, I'll take it out of draft format and then we'll get it out there and get it posted and kind of follow up on her suggestions of being more active promoting it on social. And then people that know artists in the community individually reaching out to them and talking to them about the project. And okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Moving on. Rotary Room Photography. And do we have anyone speaking on that or?
Me.
Aubrey.
Thank you, Audrey.
So originally I was going to discuss with Ridgeline's photography classes to see if they wanted to take on this project. But since March, with the discussions I've had with students and teachers in our arts programs, it's very busy right now because we have yearbook. We're trying to finish up the yearbook while also taking pictures of events nearing the end of the year. So graduation things and among lots of other things that we're doing at the moment. And so a lot of the cameras and like time is being spent with that. So there's not really a moment right now that can be done. But I did discuss further with Roy Powell. He is a local photographer and he works very closely with Ridgeline and a lot of their performing arts activities. Like he takes pictures of marching band, dance team, as well as other events being held at Ridgeline. And so he's also very involved, and he last time I talked to him about it, he said that he would be interested in possibly taking it up, seeing as Ridgeline's a little bit too busy right now to be able to have the students do that. And I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly if we talked about the pictures possibly being changed at some point, because if we were able to later in the year discuss wanting the students to come and do it when the season is a lot less busy with their photography projects, they said that they were open to that as well.
Okay. So is this, go ahead.
Are the students allowed to take the equipment off campus?
They said it was a possibility. I would have to talk to my principal a little bit more about it to see if he would allow it, but from most of the art and photography instructors' opinions, he probably would allow us just when the season is not so busy.
Okay.
Do we have a time frame that we're trying to meet for this
Well, the
project?
students are gonna be out of school in a month, right?
Yeah, the only problem with that is we will not have access to the cameras. So then the cameras would have to be provided elsewhere, which is why they were talking about possibly in the fall or winter having more students try and participate in something like that, just because school would be in session and we would have more access to more photographers.
So maybe this is something that we push out to fall, but going into it, you know, early on so that maybe generating some interest and buzz. So you guys start school the end of August this year, correct?
Yes.
So maybe we generate some buzz right at the beginning of the year. And then we can get something in play for, you know, for late fall, early winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sound like a plan for everybody?
That sounds good.
Okay. So would you just mark that on your calendar, and you can feel free to reach out to me if you need some ideas on that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. Any questions for Audrey? Okay, moving on to Never Forget Garden Electrical Box. Okay, so I received a few ideas. Jen, I emailed you just now, and didn't know if you could pull up one of the graphics. So I actually got a hold of Janet again. And she sent me something that I'm going to have Jen, if she can put it up on the screen there. But there was one that we received late last year, early this year, which I like better, but I actually don't have that on my email anymore. And I was hoping somebody has it, a couple of the graphics.
I haven't received
Did you get it
anything.
yet?
Mhm.
Okay. So she put me in touch with, as well, with Craig Fallon, who works with her. And he sent me all kinds of great pictures, but they're like pictures. So I said, no, these have to be in typically a vector format so that they could be wrapped. I don't know the process to take a photograph that somebody's taking with their camera and, you know, put it into a file that could be done. But I think at this point, either the one that we have now and I'll go back to Janet again. If anybody has that file still, or an email from earlier in the year or late last year from Janet,
Is that
she
the
had a
one that
couple
was
files on there that would work.
That was like veteran art? Is that the
Well,
one?
it was, yes, one of them was this logo, right? And it was more, then the one that she sent recently is this, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which could work, but the one that she had sent previously, which was more incorporating this logo here, had more of a flag presentation, what would look more appropriate. Unfortunately, like I said, a lot of the great photographs I received won't work for what we're looking at for it.
We had talked at one point just of trying to make it more obscured and using their rows and finding art or a good picture that could be used. So then it like blends into the landscaping versus taking away from the plaque.
Yeah.
Is that something that we want to consider or we're looking more
So
for?
I'll reach out to her again. They're not the easiest to get a hold of, so it was probably 5 or 6 email and a couple phone calls to get a response back out of her. So is there a way to go back? Do you see anything, Jen, from her?
I'm just pulling,
Okay.
no, but Mikhail has the file, so let me, see if I can share her. Was
So you're
it one
think-
image or 3? Okay, I just got one pulled up at the moment.
Okay. So you're
Give me one
thinking more of
second.
an abstract so that it doesn't take away from the
So
file.
kind of like the sunflower box that we have where it's wrapped, we had talked about using, because I think it's the rose that's at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and it was a very specific variety. So whether you do an artistic take on it or ask an artist to do an artistic take on it or an actual picture of that that rose, just so it doesn't take away from the plaque and it kind of blends into the
Good idea.
landscaping that's there. I'm certainly not opposed to this. I just know that that was something we had discussed, so it's just refreshing that.
Well,
Thank you.
I like it.
Did you want to, oh, the other one is just a QR code and,
Yeah, but there was a couple that she sent months ago. And it was before we started having issues with the phones or with the email, excuse me. So I'm just trying to remember, do you see anything that comes up late last year?
okay. Well, I wasn't here late last year. I was out, so.
Laura, I think you have a good idea though. So let me find out what flower is specific. And I mean, certainly there's not an urgency to do this, but maybe we could put it out to the students again.
What's her name
If we did,
again?
what's that?
Janet?
Janet Albert?
Yes, it is,
Okay, let me see. I have-
ULBRIGHT.
as a Army military veteran, I would very much like to be involved in this.
Okay. Bob, I'll reach out to you and we can get some ideas for it.
The last email I
Okay,
have from her
okay.
is 23.
I'll reach out to her. I'll find out more about the flower. And then, but if we did, get maybe a student to design it, or we just find an abstract that's not copyrighted and we could make a wrap for it and be done with it. I mean, it's not a huge project, but at the same time,
Be nice to
yep,
get it done.
I'll reach out to her tomorrow. Bob, I'll include you on that as well.
Please.
Any questions on that? Okay. Move on to the Pavilion Historical Outlook with Laura.
No update other than, we need to figure out the plaque relocation still.
Okay.
There's a plaque that's mounted in that
I'll work with.
landscape bed. So we just need to.
Derek, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you work with Brandon, since he oversees Town Square Park, and find a good location to recommend to the commission for relocating the Lud Kramer plaque that's at Pavilion?
Okay.
Maybe a couple options, and do you want to weigh in? Does the commission need to weigh in on that? Or do you just let staff move the Lud Kramer?
I don't know if we need to. I think when we originally brought it up, we thought Town Square would be the most appropriate location because it's not just about Lud, it's kind of about the city formation and incorporation, if I'm recalling correctly.
Okay. Any questions for Laura? All right, we'll move on to Liberty Lake Together. We have anything more that we need to discuss on that?
Still progressing. Sorry, I'm gonna just pull up the text that she had sent me. The glass elements are almost finished. The steel, it was delivered this past week, so now it's a matter of putting everything together. I can't remember if I mentioned at the last meeting. Originally, she thought she was constrained to 4 feet in the panels, and they're up to 6 feet. So she was really excited about that. So there'll be a little more movement and texture and variation to the panels on the piece. And it also will allow us to come up with a plan for a single mounting foundation versus individual pedestals for each panel. So everything is progressing and still looking good for a summer installation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions for Laura? Story Walk, we're going to carry that over to 2026. I believe we discussed at our last meeting. Did we come to a definitive agreement on that? Jen, do you remember? So we don't have access to the students at this point. And Sal Lorenzen, I think it's his last name, said that he'd be willing to to take it over to run with this in the fall. So we have a location along Country Vista between Liberty Creek and Liberty Lake Elementary, and which is highly walked through all day long, actually. So I think at this point, since we don't have anybody to fabricate it until that time, I'll reach out to Sal here this summer to make sure that we get on their project calendar for the fall. Any questions for me on that? All right. Also, we did get our next two books, excuse me. So, which will be put out. We have The Night Market by Sienna Wedlick. And then we also have The Prickle Trims Go Wild. I want to make sure I got that. So I'll forward that out to everybody so that they can see the little description about that. And Jandy, are you on by chance? Okay. Jandy's been like Johnny on the spot with getting these out. So kudos to her and her team. I'll forward that out to everybody.
I would like to say, I think the books are great. They're really great illustrations and good stories. The last one was kind of scientific. So I ordered one up for a couple of my grandkids.
Great. Also, the Smarty sign. We have an attachment on your desk there or on your table in front of you that. So Derek grabbed this from the Smarty Signs website, and you can see the appropriate height for that. We have a location picked out. Where are we, Derek, with the actual installation, or did you just need to get our blessing on this, so to speak?
So we are all ready. We got it built up and it's over there at Rocky Hill Park. We just wanted to get, obviously there's some minimums and some maximums, and we just wanted to get your guys' input on what you thought would be probably the best height.
Okay.
Right now, the one at Orchard Park that we installed last year, the top is 5 feet and the bottom is just over 2.5 feet.
So you're testing my eyesight with this. What is the height that we're looking at in perhaps the second picture with the boy?
They recommend a height of 55 inches, and that puts you right around 4.5 feet.
Okay. So no stand will be needed then?
We have the frame. We just need to make sure that you guys are good with that height. So obviously when we auger the holes, we're at the proper depth.
Was the one at Orchard too high or too low?
It was too high, so we had to develop. I don't even know if it's still there, if that stand is still there for the kids to step on. Has anybody been out there to see that? But it was too high.
Okay.
So I'm fine with 55 inches.
Okay.
And is everybody fine understanding where the placement on
Yeah, thank
the
you.
map? Okay.
Oh, no, go ahead and maybe everybody should have that in their packet. If not, it's in last month's packet.
But we just wanted to make sure everybody is okay with the placement.
This is the actual in your packet. There's a picture of the spotting sign. And then I believe in last month's packet is actually the location. Is that correct, Jen?
I threw it in this one too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in this one.
So the package that came in the mail for me, it was the frame?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
terrific. There's also some additional trash cans. Are these the ones that have been painted recently?
So you're getting ahead of
I'm
us.
sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Taking your time.
We've begun the staff report. So Derek, why don't you go ahead and weigh in on that?
I apologize.
Not a problem at all. So yes, we have received 2 of the garbage can or trash cans that have been painted. Right now I have them in the back of my truck just at City Hall. And we're planning on getting those out within the next day. Heather from the high school has 2 more that they're hoping to finish up here shortly. And then they're pretty much going to be done with any more painting projects until the start of the next year. One thought I did have is we have purchased a new kind of an event slash trash trailer for our park events that we'll be using throughout the event to move stuff around. My one thought was we have been doing a bunch of the barrels, but this new trailer has about 2.5 foot sides on it that are solid metal. And my thought was maybe get that painted, and then when we are actually doing events and we're driving that trailer through the park, it's not just one color of black, but it has a little bit more standout. Plus, it would probably get some, decent looks from the citizens.
I love that idea. What park are these barrels going in?
So one park had kind of the setup for farmers market, so we'll put that one back there. The other one kind of had a little train on it, so I was thinking about probably taking that one to Orchard Park.
Great.
So, and they are double-sided for the artwork.
Are the emails with the CV students, is that for this project, Jen, or is that a different project that they're doing?
The what?
The CV students, there was the email about the historical, like the dates on the historical photos.
Oh, I'm not, what that was about.
Okay, I didn't know if that was for this project or if that was something
No,
separate.
No, I
Okay.
don't think so. Maybe, but I don't think so.
Okay.
All right, anything else for Derek? So he's got his hands full with projects.
So yeah, if you guys like the idea of doing the trailer, I can talk to Heather a little bit more. Obviously, the barrels are pretty easy because they can bring them into the classroom where the trailer would have to be outside. So I want to make sure that it is accessible for them.
Do we need do we need any kind of motion?
I don't think so.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on the trailer? Thank you, Derek.
Yep, I'll keep you guys updated, and then next month I'll come back with kind of what the next steps will be.
Thank you.
So with upcoming events, just wanted to kind of give a quick report. We have the farmers market starting May 17th. Then for Memorial Day, there's the Memorial Day celebration on May 26th, that Monday. And then the luminary tribute that they normally do out in Pavilion, that will start the 23rd, the Friday before that, going through the 26th. And then just our 4th of July celebration. And then we have Touch Trek planned for July 18th. So that's kind of the next 2 months of events that are slowly coming up. And then Jen, did you want me to talk about the birthday?
Yep.
Okay.
It was brought to us by the mayor and city administrator for next year. I don't think I told you that, Michael.
What was that?
This idea is coming from the mayor and
Oh, gotcha.
city administrator.
Yeah, so I was asked just to come up with some ideas. Next year is birthday of City of Liberty Lake. And so we had talked about potential options for either a new community event for celebrate the birthday or potentially combine, I think in years past when there was some, what was it, smoke issues, we combined symphony and barefoot and fireworks and potentially do something similar for one large celebration. So some of the ideas that didn't involve that, something new would just be, there's a list on your sheet, a community parade, citywide scavenger hunt, photo contest of Liberty Lake, skip a couple, share your story. So there was one city that got people to write down stories about their community that stood out to them or video their stories. And then they had this packet where you could have different stories about your community that was on their city website. I think a fun one was a giant birthday card for the city, people to come sign, and then they had it displayed in the community after that. So anyways, just some ideas, something that staff has been thinking about for next year, and then something I assume we will bring to you as we start talking about it more for next year.
Is it the 25th year birthday?
Yep.
And then just some additional programming. Company that we used to do a program with years ago is a whitewater rafting company. I think it's Wiley Rafting. Can't remember off the top of my head, but a lot of the cities partner up with them where you can sign up through your Parks and Rec and do a scenic rafting trip down Spokane River or more intense ones depending on the time of the year. So I just reached out to them to see if they are still interested in partnering up, and they potentially are, if that's something the commission feels like the community might be an interest. It's a very easy, simple activity for us to host. They give us a discount that we pass on to the community members, and then do a partner split like we have with some of our other programming. So that's a potential, something I was talking with them about, and I just wanted to gauge your all's interest, if that's something you think the community might like to see, or if it's something we should pass on.
I would recommend it. I've been on their rafting trips and they're really well organized, safe, fun. Great.
I know Post Falls Parks and Rec, Hayden Parks and Rec, and Spokane Parks and Recs have been doing things with them for 10, 15 years.
I love the idea of adding more programming, but I was just curious about any potential liability.
Yeah, so it'd be on them. They have all the insurance. They are all professional guides and they're all trained and certified. So I think it'd be the same liability if someone went and registered with them in person. It would be up to their liability. We'd have waivers and they have their waivers as well.
And the agreement before it's finalized goes through our attorney for review and suggestions, as well as our risk management for review and suggestions. So it'll go through all those sets of eyes.
Awesome. I love it.
Are there any questions or more comments on that?
Move forward, yay?
Yay.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, I will start talking with them a little bit more, hopefully try to get something off the ground. They said they do more of their scenic ones in the fall, so that'd probably be the first thing that we would try. Just it's more family oriented. You can do younger ages and things like that.
I like the giant card. That would be a big hit.
And then I just wanted to give a quick update with the paint class. I did some more discussion, put together some ideas with the instructor that we potentially partner up with. She will have a hard time kind of making this meeting at the time it is. So I didn't know if you wanted me to kind of push and have her come present, or if you just were fine with me giving you some of the ideas, just how you guys wanted to proceed with that. Just the 4 o'clock time frame in her business is a little hard to make it out here.
I think it's fine if you're working with her and
Okay.
relaying the information.
Okay. So I think what I'll do next with that is start putting an agreement together that will go to council with the price points and everything. And then we could potentially do a class with her starting late summer. We kind of discussed potentially doing one per season. So fall, winter, spring. At this point, we'll do one and then see how that goes. And if that goes well, do one per season. And then we have some ideas for adult, youth, and a combination class where it's like a parent-child class. Right. Oh, and then software, we got delayed a little bit with this software because of our credit card processing needs to get incorporated with it. And there were some delays with that. So hopefully we'll have that up and running fairly soon. I don't have a set date and time yet, but we're getting closer with that.
Kel, I have a question on the PA system for Barefoot. We talked about that last summer. Did you guys come to any decision on or anything at all to do?
Yes, so we're working on actually getting a DJ that was there in years past and kind of put them in the center of the park where they can make announcements to both directions.
Great idea. Easy fix.
Yeah. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I won't take up too much time on this, but I think at the next meeting, be prepared to go through the budget and start. And what I'll do is kind of type as we go and start inserting new projects. We'll go out to the outline year of 2028 and start drafting our new and incoming budget. So I printed off this one. Obviously, even tonight, we're moving some things around for the next year. So be ready for that. And then I had time to do this for you all. I've never had time before. So the Parks and Arts Commission budget table. So I was able to go into our accounting software and actually see what we've been budgeted every year and what we've spent every year to date. And it basically broke it out as a table and then played around with a chart. And it's very interesting to see. Obviously, 2025 is showing no expenditures yet. There is the expenditure in the voucher packet for council tomorrow night for the Smarty Board. So after tomorrow night, that will show the $2,000 item. But I put this together and sent it to Nancy before she left for her vacation, and she thought it was pretty interesting. It's kind of powerful to see that we have money budgeted. It's just it's getting the projects scheduled and off the ground. So yeah, I thought you might be interested in that.
Do we have noted, or how would we separate out? Because we budget as if we're paying for all the projects, and sometimes we get donations and sponsorships. But do we have a way of showing how much we're spending in donations? I'm just curious because I think it is, we've learned that it's more difficult to execute the projects in that timeline versus coming up with the ideas and budgeting it, but.
So this, if I'm hearing you right, this should account for the donated funds. So those will be deducted out of these orange bars. Because it's in a different line item, a whole different line item. So what you're seeing here is the number for the projects less any donations.
Yes, but the budgeted amount doesn't change less that donation. So I'm just curious on some of these. Obviously we underspend every year, but I'm curious if it's on some of these years, if we're getting a little bit closer.
I mean, there isn't a whole lot of donations. There aren't a whole lot of donations, but I could factor that into this if that's what
I'd just be curious.
Yeah.
I think it's been a focus, at least early on the early years. It was a pretty heavy focus on.
There was.
What can we get sponsored
and
and
it'll
donated? So
bump that orange bar up a little bit.
yeah, it was just more of a curiosity than anything.
Yep.
Thank you for putting that together.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
And that, the last thing, I don't have anything on number 5. The last thing is, does anybody want to volunteer for the May 20th, city council report at 6 o'clock?
I am out of town that day, but I'm happy to put slides together for whoever's able to.
I'm out.
And I think, actually, I think Nancy said she might be able to do it.
Yes, she did, I think.
Didn't she say that?
Well, we'll
I'll check
surprise
with
her
her.
if she did.
Okay, we'll pause on that thought. I'll put Nancy question mark. Now that my memory is thinking that way, okay. And that's all I have if there are no further questions.
Thank you. Any other items for the good of the commission that we need to talk about? Otherwise, we will adjourn.
Did you want us to sign up for the farmer's market? Is that online?
Is that online?
Yeah. So
Okay, yeah, just let Mikkel know if you want to sign up for the 9 to 11 or the 11 to 1 slots. And that's on July 26th at Farmers Market. We'll have a spot at the table there for the parks plan.
Farmers Market opens up this Saturday or the next?
17th.
$17.
Okay, seeing none, meeting is adjourned.